Well, yes, they're talking about the retired IGP tenure elongation now. Apparently, there was a court ruling on that particular matter. We have two gentlemen to discuss this with us right now. Mr. Gudaji Hamza is a legal practitioner. You're welcome to Sunrise Daily.
Thank you.
And also Mr. Silas Onu as well, also a legal practitioner. Gentlemen, you saw that there was plenty of talk after the president extended the tenure of the former IGP. For about 3 months before he appointed a new IGP. And people, some lawyers said, no, he didn't have the powers to do that. But they didn't stop at that. They took the matter to court. And now we understand that there's a ruling. A ruling has been delivered in that particular matter, saying that indeed, while the process is yet to be concluded, the president can extend the tenure of a sitting IGP. It was still has expired for maybe as long as he deems. He didn't say how long, but that the president did not err in law when he did that. And it was seen that lawyers are still not agreed. What is your point of objection to that?
Well, thank you very much, Barbara. It is important to start tracing this judgment from the beginning. On the 1st of February 2021, effective from midnight, the former IGP Adamu retired, having served for 35 years in the police. And you recall that after that date, he continued in office for about 2 weeks without any announcement of extension or whatever. It was towards the end of February that the president purported to have extended his tenure for 3 months. I know within that period, Maxwell Ogbara, a lawyer here at Abuja, filed a case challenging the IGP's continuance in office after retirement. That action was filed on the 3rd of February. And that was the question he raised. There was no issue of tenure extension. So that judgment itself was misleading to start with. The judgment confused the matter just to either confer privileges that are non-existent or to undermine the Constitution and give the president powers that he doesn't also have. The Constitution and the Police Act, which derive its power from the Constitution too, are clear on this issue. Section 18 of the Police Act, 18.8, provide that all police officers, all, it doesn't say some, police officers are to retire after serving for 35 years or attaining the age of 60 years, whichever comes first. So that is a terminal date for police officers. So that is a date that the law has fixed. The president doesn't have powers to extend that date by 1 minute because it's a law and it's clear. The
judge did say that the law was quiet, was silent on that.
That is wrong, and that is where I have my problem with the judge. I'm going to write a petition against that judge because it seemed like he deliberately undermined the Constitution or that he doesn't know the law.
Why do you say so?
First of all, for you to say that the Constitution and Police Act is silent on tenure extension, there is nothing for or against it. Therefore, the president has powers to extend tenure. Is very dangerous. Is there anything for or against the president staying in office beyond May 29, 2023? There's nothing for or against. There is just the provision of the Constitution that his tenure is 4 years. Right? The Constitution didn't say the president cannot stay 1 day beyond 4 years. So this kind of judgment can be interpreted to say, since there is nothing that says the president cannot stay beyond 4 years, he can stay on. It is very dangerous. Nigerians should be suspicious of this kind of judges. We should be suspicious of this kind of judges. They do hatchet man's job.
I do not. So I don't know if it is wise to say, bring the judge's personality to...
I like to do that. I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer, first of all. Let me say something, yes. Mark, where we have been keeping judges out of criticism, and they continue to destroy this country. We need to be calling them out personally, because you can't say somebody gives this kind of judgment and you say, no, maybe he did it honestly. If it is an honest mistake, then he shouldn't also be on the bench. It's a dangerous, honest mistake.
There are lawyers who disagree with your position, I'm sure. Do you agree with his position or you disagree?
Well, to begin with, I read in the news that a judgment, not a ruling, a judgment was delivered
What's the difference between a judgment and a ruling?
A judgment is a final decision. A ruling is usually an interlocutory decision. The judgment was delivered by Honorable Justice A.R. Mohammed with respect to the subject matter that we are discussing about. I haven't gone through the judgment itself. The information I have, about what transpired is basically from what I read, in the media. And I also read that the plaintiff has indicated, that he's going to appeal against the judgment. Now, having said that, a judgment of a court is a judgment of the court. It has to be respected. I will decline from making any imputations against the character or reputation of the judge. However, talking about the legal issues involved, I believe, or I also subscribe to the opinion that the tenure of the former IGP expired on the 1st of February by virtue of Section 18 sub 8 of the Police Act, which is very clear, like my colleague said. You either serve for 35 years or upon the attainment of 60 years, you retire. And the Constitution is also very, very clear in Section 215 to the effect that an IGP of police shall be appointed, from serving members of the force. Now, the question is, who is a serving member? I believe that question is answered by Section 18 sub 8. A serving member is somebody who is either in the force before 60 years or within a span of 35 years of service. I think that question is answered adequately. And I also read in the media that part of the reasons, for the decision of the judge is to ensure that a vacuum is avoided in the office of the Inspector General of Police. In order to avoid a vacuum, the media reported that the judge said that the tenure could be extended as a stopgap measure. However, going through the Police Act itself, you would find that Section 11 sub 3 provides that the most senior Deputy Inspector General of Police is in a position to act and exercise the powers of the IGP in the absence of the IGP. So the Act itself has already remedied such a situation. I think more of, ensuring the proper exercise of executive powers. I'm more in favor of ensuring that the executive is proactive. Why? Because this has been seen coming, right from the word go. Because everybody knew that the former IG was to retire on the 1st of February. There are qualified officers within the force to be appointed as IG. But I think a delay was made for inexplicable reasons, which I don't find satisfactory at all. A delay was made, and then we found ourselves in a legal crisis, so to speak. And these things can actually spell serious doom for the country, because when you enter into such a situation, anything can happen. So I think we need to be more proactive in situations like this. So largely you
agree with him?
I largely agree with him, except for the part of, impugning the character or personality of the judge. I don't subscribe to that, but I agree with the legal position. I do.
He thinks that judges should be called out on such a judgment.
No, I don't. I don't know about that. I'm not going to support that.
Well, not all of us are activists. For me, I'm more of an activist in the profession. And I do think that people should be held responsible for their actions, whether a judge, a legislator, or the president or any member of the executive. We cannot continue to condone acts like this. It is little judgments like this that have thrown this country into a state of confusion. People today can commit crime and tell you nothing will happen because they know they can go get a friendly judge and get away with it. So we must begin to call out judges.
It is not clear now that, you know, this is the case of a friendly judge. This could just be, I mean, as you said, that maybe the judge did not want a vacuum. Circumstances could happen. I mean, we've seen the doctrine of necessity in this country. And so when you talk about the president, even though the president has stated very clearly that he does not intend to stay a day longer than, you know, what is guaranteed in the Constitution. Yeah. But we have seen the doctrine of necessity in this country come up, you know, to save the situation where a vacuum was already being created, so to speak. So let us see this. I mean, he says that the Constitution and the Police Act empowered the president to appoint an IGP. Yeah. By implication, he could extend the tenure of a retiring IGP before concluding the required consultation with the police council and other processes required for the appointment of a substantive replacement. Now, I'm a little just curious. You referred to the 2 weeks in which the presidency or the president himself was silent on the fate of the IGP who was due to retire. Is it that 2 weeks vacuum which you're referring to, or the fact that a pronouncement was made on the extension 2 weeks after he ought to have retired?
First of all, let me say that I followed this case from the start to the end. I was always attending court.
What was your interest, though, in the case?
I had been following the Police Act when it was passed in 2020, and I just knew that it would not be followed. It would not be respected by the executive, and I needed to see if the judiciary will uphold that law or will play along with the politicians. And they played along with the politicians. And sometimes this is where you blame heads of court, because such cases ought to be sent to people who are known to be firm, are known to be straightforward. Look, before this judgment was given, a lot of journalists were like, you know, I bet this one, nothing will come out of it. And it happened like that. It is sad that citizens already know what kind of judgment will come out from a court, and it comes out that way. Now, it is not about the 2 weeks alone. It is everything. The prayers in that case was that whether by the combined effect of the Constitution and the Police Act, the former IGP can continue in office after his retirement, not being a serving member of the police force. The Constitution and the Police Act emphasize that point, that the IGP can only be appointed from serving members. So when you cease to be a serving member, pursuant to Section 18.8, which determines your stay in the police, when you cease to be a serving member of the police force, can you validly continue to hold that office? That was the question. The judge in his judgment agreed that from the documents before him, he agreed that the IGP retired on the 1st of February. And then left the issue there. Didn't make pronouncement on whether he can continue. That was an issue that was properly joined. The IGP lawyer said, yes, he can continue because his appointment took effect under the new Police Act, which tenured the IGP's office to 4 years. So yeah, he can continue for 4 more years. His tenure elapsed in 2024, not 2021. So those arguments were there. The judge was expected to address it, so that the IGP who is in office now will know his fate, whether he will leave on his due date of retirement or he will stay for 4 years. Now, by this judgment have created further confusion. The IGP will tell you his retirement is so day, the president can extend it, and he will continue for 4 years. So we were expecting the judge to address that matter. Extension came later. It was a consequential prayer that was added, right? To say, if the president has power to extend, show us the law that empowers him to do that. Our argument, that is the lawyers now saying, their argument is simple. He doesn't have that power. The Constitution and the Police Act have fixed the limits of your stay as a police officer in the force. And also the public service rule deals with this matter, because the police officers are public servants. And the public service rule also, the court have held that it enjoys a constitutional flavor. The president cannot extend the tenure of a civil servant or public servant. You can bring him back as a contract staff after his retirement. But can you do that for the police? No, because the Constitution says serving member, not a contract member. So once you're done, you're done. And there is no emergency to to require a stopgap.
I'm just curious.
If the IGP had died,
yes,
it would have been an emergency. But like you said, Section 11.3 of the Police Act have dealt with that issue. It is a convenient section to fall back to. The most senior DIG takes over. That is the stopgap,
so what,
not extension.
If that is clearly stated in the law, as you say, why do you think that the former IGP couldn't just retire since everybody knew that this was the day he was going to retire? Because
probably he knows that the court will do this for him. If institutions are this weak, it's because the gatekeepers allow it to be this weak. If the court would throw him out... Not
because he already gotten an indication from the person who appointed him...
No matter what.
That he could stay on?
If he knows that there will be criminal implication by him holding over office after his retirement, even if the president says stay on, he will run away. Because he knows nobody will go after the president, they'll go after him.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it might be a matter of precedent, like you said. Maybe customarily, the person who must have appointed the IGP probably gives an indication that, okay, it's time for you to go, and the IGP goes. But it was probably not the case. So I'm only speculating, but I think it's a matter of precedent.
It remains
because by operation of law, by the 1st of February, his retirement has set
So
in.
what should happen on the 1st of February? Should he be the one to say, oh, I'm already due for retirement. Today should be my last day in the office. These are my paraphernalia of office. I hand it over to... Is that what he should do? Or should he wait for the president to say, it's time for you to go?
His mates did that. He was recruited or enlisted into police together with Ibrahim Lamurde, the former chairman of EFCC. He bowed out on the 1st. He didn't wait for the president to say leave. Now, the lawyers representing the former IGP argued in court that the office of the IGP is a quasi-political office. It's not an ordinary office. Therefore, he's not caught up by Section 18.8.
Gentlemen, what exactly is this case meant to prove?
Well, it for me is about institutional safeguards, right, and upholding our laws. Like the little video played now said, in spite of the appointment of the new IG, the plaintiff said he's appealing. It's important for the plaintiff to appeal because there's still confusion in the system. It is even in the interest of the new IGP for them to appeal so that he knows his fate ahead of time. Because it's not about Adamu. It's just coincidentally that Adamu's name was on the process because he was the subject matter at the time. But it's about the office of the IGP. It's about the police in general. You must have an institution that operates seamlessly.
So if he wins this case, they're not going to say, oh, the things he did in that 3 months are null and void. And
Well, because they are completed acts, right? You just move on from there. However, there are far-reaching implications. If you read that case, there was also the issue of qualification. Section 7.6 of the Police Act pegged the office of the IGP, tenured it in 4 years. So now the question is, if you don't have 4 years in the police force, can you be validly appointed an IGP? Adamu, former IGP, tried to also use that section in his favor to say, yes, now the law is that it's 4 years, so and I'm still the IGP, I have to enjoy that 4 years. So the court ought to have made pronouncements on all of these issues, all of the questions raised. The judge didn't make any pronouncement on them. He departed from the case, created a new question, which is elongation, and answered it, and wrongly too.
Okay, so I don't know what your closing thoughts are.
I believe suits like this, very important for the purposes of, amongst other things, like you said, institutional safeguards, also to deepen our jurisprudence and our understanding of the law. So I believe this is what democracy is all about, and this is one of the functions of the judiciary, to interpret the law.
Well, we will certainly be following this case to appeal when it eventually gets there. Gentlemen, we have to thank you for coming on Sunrise Elite this morning. Mr. Gudaji Hamza is a legal practitioner, and Mr. Silas Onu, also a legal practitioner.